Our top story today from the gatewaypundit.com, New Zealand's lesbian Navy captain loses a $100 million naval ship in a peacetime disaster, running the ship aground, having it catch fire, and then it sinks, unleashing an oil spill off the Samoan coast. This is a DEI disaster waiting to happen, and we're covering this and so much more here on the Gateway Pundit's Weekend Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Gateway Pundit's Weekend Review, where we cover the top 5 stories of the last 24 hours in around 10 minutes. Our top story today, New Zealand had a naval disaster as their DEI lesbian Navy captain lost a $100 million Navy ship in a peacetime disaster. I wonder if she was trans and lost her tits, and also we all lost our balls as we watched this sink. It's absolutely devastating. This is a disaster that was avoidable. You can see the ship here. New Zealand's Navy has suffered its first peacetime ship loss since World War II, when the $100 million multi-role support vessel, the HMNZS Manawanu is what we're calling it, but who knows? This is the native language, it seems, ran aground off the southern coast of Upolu Island in Samoa. It caught fire and eventually sank, triggering an environmental disaster in the process. I'm not trying to laugh about this. How much more are we going to suffer with DEI before we see this? Now, luckily, all 75 passengers and crew were evacuated. The vessel's loss brings fresh scrutiny to the leadership under its openly lesbian commanding officer, Commander Yvonne Gray. Well, the Manawanu, originally built in Norway and repurposed for New Zealand's Royal Navy with a substantial $103 million investment, was conducting a seabed survey mission when it hit a reef, according to a maritime news outlet. Now, we have the video for you. I want to play it because they did run aground. I want to show you how bad the listing is. Let me put up this full screen. Check this out. Here is the vessel listing on its side after running aground on a reef. It's absolutely devastating. And it brings up the question that we all want to know: should we be risking inclusion at the expense of what? I don't know, our safety or hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money? We continually see this as pilots are brought into production, even the making of planes themselves. We got to have more black people, more gay people, but what about qualified and skilled people? It seems like we're all running aground when it comes to the advancement of our country. Speaking of interesting statements, a propaganda video was just released. If you haven't heard of this podcast, you probably have a life. The Call Daddy podcast, which is one of the largest in the world, host asks Kamala Harris why she decided to do her Vulgar sex podcast, but not substantive interviews. Check this out. Kamala Harris appeared on the Call Daddy podcast, a smut podcast in America, as the rest of us were drowning in Hurricane Helene, and as Milton begins to crash into the western side of Florida. Call Daddy host Alex Cooper is notorious for sexually explicit interviews with sex workers. Don't wonder why Kamala Harris was drawn to the podcast. Now, Alex Cooper asked Kamala Harris why she hasn't done too many long-form interviews with news organizations. I'm curious, you don't do too many long-form interviews. What made you do Call Daddy today? Podcast host Alex Cooper asked Kamala Harris. Check out these clips that we have from the interview themselves. Here she is on a sex podcast. Even the host was confused why she accepted this. Listen.
I'm curious, you don't do too many long-form interviews. What made you want to do Call Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real, and to talk about the things that people really care about. What I love about what you do is that your voice in your show is really about your listeners. And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard, and that they're part of a community, that they're not out there alone. And so I'm really glad to be.
What the hell? What the hell even was that? Honestly, why'd you want to come on here? I just thought people need to be in a place where those that are will be and should. If not for where we were, then we might be somewhere else. I don't know if she's even real. Is Kamala Harris a drone? Is she a robot? I'm not even entirely sure. It feels like that. I'd feel a little more, sympathetic if I knew Kamala Harris was retarded. And yes, I did say that on a news outlet's show. And we are in the middle of a Hurricane Milton about to hit us here in Florida. So I might not be here tomorrow or on Thursday. So let's just live our life the best we can. There's a few other clips from the show that were quite interesting. Check this one out.
Should we trust you?
So I'll say this. Look, you can look at my career to know what I care about.
So she didn't say we should trust her. She said we can look at her career. Also, this very intelligent young woman, as you know, blondes are the smartest among us, said this.
And to put it in our TikTok terms, I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use? Do you even know do you know what a X or Y or Z is of a part of our, and they don't know the answer.
I was the first vice president or president to ever in office go to a reproductive health care clinic.
Okay, so I don't know what she's talking about. However, the dumbest part of this entire interview was where the Caller Daddy host asked Kamala Harris about if she could think of one law that affects men's bodies that is similar to abortion laws. And she said no. She forgot about the Selective Service Draft, which has led to the deaths of over 1 million Americans. Men, particularly. We don't have any autonomy. When we go to war, if we're drafted, we just have to go at gunpoint, or we'll be killed or arrested. I mean, people think we live in some sort of modern civilization. Maybe we do. We have toaster ovens and air fryers, but the reality is men's lives are expendable, and everybody knows that. And I'm tired of this being like, well, men don't understand where tampons go. Women don't understand what it took to build civilization. And I'm not even sexist or coming out misogynist in this way and trying to speak down on anyone. I'm saying it doesn't do us any good when we have a vice president trying to be sexist against men when you need men to run society. It shouldn't be that controversial to say something that obvious. Now, more interestingly, speaking of that, Elon Musk founded an American PAC. He rolls out a bold program. You can actually earn $30 an hour with a performance bonus to boost voter registration, plus $47 for each referred swing state voter signing the petition. Listen to this. Elon Musk, America PAC, founded by tech titan CEO Elon Musk, has launched a bold initiative offering $30 per hour with added performance bonuses for those willing to rally behind voter registration efforts. The program also aims to increase participation in swing states, promising an additional $47 for each referred voter from swing states who sign a petition supporting fundamental rights, including free speech and Second Amendment. At a recent rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Musk empathetically declared the importance of upcoming elections and the urgency of voter registration. Musk said during the rally, "I think the election is the most important election of our lifetime. This is no ordinary election. The other side wants to take away our freedom of speech. They want to take away your right to bear arms. They want to take away your right to vote effectively. This one request is very important: to register to vote. Get everyone you know and everyone you don't know and drag them to register to vote. There's only 2 days left to register in Georgia and Arizona. 48 hours. Text people now. Now they make sure that they actually go out and vote." That's a reminder to people in Arizona. Make sure that you do register to vote. It is so vital that you do so. Now, one of the most important things you need to realize here is that many of you have felt like you're getting impacted by your sleep. You feel like your energy is going down. Now, one person I've seen kicking ass for a very long time is Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is almost 84 years old, and I've seen him literally kicking butt like he's my age, 31, even younger. Now, many of you are looking for that energy boost in your life, and you're wondering how it is that you can get that energy, be 84, literally doing backflips and karate. Well, Chuck Norris made a few direct changes in his life, but there's one important thing that he made an adjustment to, and he has that information for you on how to change that for your life down below at chuckdefense.com/pundit. The link's in the description. When you go to chuckdefense.com/PUNDIT, you can find out how him and his wife said they feel 30 years younger by making just this one change in their life. So if you're willing to make that change and you want to find out what it is, don't wait until it's too late. Start feeling younger sooner. Click the link below and find out how Chuck Norris is still kicking butt despite being 84 years old, and says he feels like he's in his early 50s. It's an amazing accomplishment. Our last two stories of the day are quite interesting. The FBI warns of a high threat of terror attack in the U.S. today. Be aware of your surroundings. He goes on to say that on the anniversary of the day Israel wept, the FBI is warning Americans that terrorism may come to the United States. Monday marks 1 year to the day since Hamas terrorists left part of southern Israel, the scene of death and human atrocities. It also marks 1 year since Israel launched its campaign to bring down Hamas, a military effort that has since morphed into include Hezbollah to Israel's north. This is their expansionist, imperialist ideology. I do remind people that they said that they were just trying to, remember they were just trying to save the hostages? No, they're on a complete rampage and war against the Muslim world. And they're trying to drag the United States into it. I'm anti-interventionist. I'm America first. If you can somehow equate your personal support for Israel and supporting them in war to being non-interventionist and to being America first, That's an amazing mental gymnastics that you are welcome to do. But for me, I don't want to get involved in other countries' wars that don't benefit the United States, especially when I don't, especially with a kid and things. I'm not going to go out and die for other countries, and I don't want my son to do anyway either. But the FBI noted that there could be consistent calls for violence. Now, that to be said, just a reminder that there was a terrorist attack that was stopped yesterday in Texas. 2 armed Islamic terrorists were with AK-47s tried to shoot up a church and kill everyone inside. They barricaded the doors, and then the private security shot at them, and they fled. It looks like the CIA's warning might have their plants. You know, I think the government's behind this stuff. Our last mention, a feckless, vindictive, and weaponized U.S. federal government now 0 for 3 in disaster response. This is quite interesting here. The FEMA spokesperson, Jacqueline Rothenberg, may have been locked down her X account temporarily, as we reported. In fairness, though, it was opened when I checked. However, the top 11 X's for Jacqueline Rothenberg, 6 of the 11, 55%, were retweets of attacks on Donald J. Trump, lessons on disinformation, and accusatory reports of disinformation. So the head of FEMA, instead of rescuing Americans, is focused on attacking Donald Trump and fighting misinformation. It sounds like the entire government under Kamala Harris and the Biden regime is absolutely corrupted. What do you think about FEMA caring more about censorship than they do about providing water and aid to Americans in need? My name is Elijah Schaffer. Thank you so much again for watching the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. Have a great rest of the week as always. May God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.